the way people have discussed the Simmons Harden thing as it was happening and then since it happened, and even Van Gundy, who I think is a smart guy, was like, I love this trade for both teams. I think it's potentially great for them. I have no idea if Simmons is going to be good. And I don't think you do. I don't think anybody does. I keep thinking of him from what we saw last year and what we've seen in other big spot locations. Think about him in a playoff series, right? Everybody's like, this is going to be great. He's that third guy. You know, he doesn't need to be a scorer. He can fill in all the blanks. He can guard everybody. This could be a potentially devastating third edition. Kyrie, they're lifting the mass up. This is the perfect third guy for them. Just think about him in a playoff series, in a game 6 in Philly, in a game 6 in Boston, in a game 6 in Atlanta, his haunted house. Do you trust Ben Simmons to come through in a basketball game? That's my first question. The second question is, does it matter? They might not meet him. He might be a 25-minute-a-game guy for them. So where do you stand on all this?
First of all, Van Gundy alerted. In my head, I've been so excited for a potential Nets-Sixers playoff series now, obviously. And I didn't even think, you mentioned going to Philly. I didn't even think about the drama of Doc Rivers going hack-a-Ben in Philly and daring him to. I mean, that would be the most exciting, like, non-game winning or game tying free throws in the history of basketball. I would be riveted to that. So I think Simmons is going to be really good for Brooklyn. Here's my prediction. He's going to come out and play really, really well. He's a perfect fit with their team, all of that. And I'm at the point with Simmons where it's like, it's cool. Like, it's going to be fun. And I'm going to be happy for you when you're putting up like 19, 11, and 11 and flying up and down the court and guarding everybody against the Magic on April 1st or whatever it is. And I also I'm going to stop caring a little while and I'm going to wait till second round. By the way, if you get there, you're 8th right now and their schedule out of the gates with none of their guys playing regularly is brutal after the All-Star break. But let's just say you get to the second round, fourth quarter, last 6 minutes. That's what I'm interested in. Are you just going to hide? Are you hiding in the dunker spot? Are you afraid to get fouled in transition?
How about are you playing? Are you out there? What if they just use him as a 25-minute-a-game guy and we actually never see him in the last 6 minutes?
But see, here's the difference why he can be out there, other than if he starts getting intentionally fouled. But with Philly, they just didn't have another ball handler, period, to initiate the offense when when Simmons went into dunker spot mode. It was Embiid in the post, or like, hey, Seth Curry, can you run as many pick and rolls as Steph Curry, even though that's like way outside your skill set?
Yeah.
With this, it's like you can be in the dunker spot and get offensive rebounds and push the pace. So we got these two other guys to do it. So I think he will be on the court, and if we see the worst case scenario with him, it will be less harmful for Brooklyn than it was for Philly. But I do think he's going to come out of the gate like he's shot out of a cannon because he's got something to prove, and I think he's excited to play.
I think you and I are on the higher level of people who defended him as a basketball player over the years, which after the Atlanta series became a lot tougher because he seemed terrified.
No, that's just that's a demarcation point. There's before and after. Like, yes. That's it. Now, there were hints, right? There was like the Toronto series. I wrote a whole piece of, hey, are we going to talk about the fact that Ben Simmons is averaging like 9 points a game and is in the dunker spot? The Celtics series the year before, like, there were hints, but they were outweighed by what he had done in prior playoff rounds. Like the Atlanta game and the Atlanta series was like, that's a black line before and after.
I'm out on him, but I'm willing to be pulled back in.
You were out on the Celtics like 3 weeks ago.
I know. Listen, I have flip-flopped many times. This is part of what it's like to have a podcast in 2022. I'm really concerned about can he play in big games and big spots? Can he come through? And has he worked hard enough on his game over the years? Because that's the big thing. Like, however we want to talk about him as, like, was he in an unfair spot in Philly? Is it fair to say that a 25-year-old kid can't get better? What is he going through with the mental stuff? I think we can all agree that he didn't work on his game enough as some of these other guys. When your foul shooting gets worse, when your three-point shooting is a flat line, when you are over and over again making the same mistakes, and your team's playing 4-on-5 in the last 8 minutes of playoff games, he's going to have to prove to me that he worked on this stuff. If he comes back as the same guy as last year, I don't think that helps Brooklyn because I think it's easy to stop a team that's going 4-5, even a team that has Kyrie and KD. It's still really hard to score when you're 4-5.
I think I disagree with you in that I think it still helps Brooklyn just because of his defense, his rebounding, and his ability to push the pace and transition. Now, you can tell me when it slows down. No one's going to guard him, but I can use him as a ball screener in a way that I couldn't in Philly because we just didn't have the ball handlers for it. If he's just getting offensive rebounds, that's fine. I still think it helps him. I still think he's going to be on the floor in crunch time. But yeah, I mean, it's like what I said to you about Harden a couple years ago. I don't care anymore when you go 30, 10, and 10 against the Pistons in March. I don't care. It's great. Like, I don't care. You put up 50 in Charlotte. Awesome. Like, wake me up when your team's down 3-2 in the second round. And like, are you going to shit the bed again and go 2 for 11 with 10 turnovers? Or are you going to play? Like, that's where I am with Simmons. Wake me up in the fourth quarter of the theoretical Nets-Bucks series in the second round.
Listen, we're talking about nut crunch time. It's not even just crunch time. It's nut crunch time. And as I get older, I realize that more and more I value players basically based on how are they going to react in the biggest moments with the most pressure that are the most intense. And you think about those Milwaukee Phoenix games we watched, which were really awesome. I think we're going to look back at that series, especially 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's like, wow, those were amazing.
You know what we don't talk about enough from that Milwaukee Phoenix series?
The fact that Phoenix easily could have won if like 3 plays had happened.
Well, that... And the iconic play has become the Giannis block, the retreat block on the Ayton lob.
No, it's the Drew Steele alley-oop.
The Drew Steele alley-oop is like
that's
the most audacious, no. Oh my God, yes, play in like basketball history.
But also the steal, the combo of that, the steal and the balls to throw that alley-oop. I agree. I think that's a bigger play than the Giannis block. Because I was watching it recently and I was like, it seemed like Phoenix was going to score. And Phoenix scores... I don't know. I think they win the series. If Booker just scores on that play, I think they probably win the series.
It's just a crazy, in every sense of the word crazy, it's a crazy sequence of events.
And you and I are aligned on this because we've talked about it before. I don't think Giannis got enough credit and respect for what he did those last couple rounds because I think the one of the narratives that came out of it was just, well, the Nets would have won. Well, if Durant's foot wasn't on the line. And it became a lot of that. And even now you feel it this year because you know, the best player in the league thing has shifted, and we'll talk about that later. But it's kind of funny that the 3 best players in the league are setters.
Well,
it's Giannis and Jokic and Embiid. Those are the 3 best players right now. And Luka's, I think, has a chance to crash that party, and so does Curry. And who knows, LeBron could average 35 a game the last 22 games. But it's just weird that when I met you, when we started working together in 2011-12, that was right as the center position was being phased out. We had no good centers. Now the centers are potentially controlling the league.
I'm glad you mentioned Giannis because there's always been this sort of Giannis Simmons comparison of, well, if you just gave Simmons 4 shooters around him and let him run and cook like Giannis can. Remember when Ilyasova and Bellinelli were there and Embiid was injured and they went like 12-1 or whatever it was. And they both are bad free throw shooters and all that. And I agree there are some similarities there. The difference is that when Giannis was having the 10 count on him on free throws, and when Giannis was shooting 40% in big playoff games from the line, he fucking kept on going and was like, hack me. I dare you to keep stopping me if that's the only way you can do it. Like, that's what we want to see. That's what you want to see from your star. That's what you want to see from Simmons. Like, I'm going to keep on going and I'm going to gut through it. And what did he go in the last game? 17 of 19 at the line or something crazy like that. Like, that's what you want to see. That's an underrated bit of mental toughness from Giannis, is just the total fearlessness with the whole world bearing down on his biggest inadequacy. And he just shrugged it off like, I'm going right back.
I thought that was the big revelation from that whole playoffs. I think fear is really underrated as a trait in sports. And I think we gloss over it. And it could be any level. You could be talking about elementary school, high school, college, whatever. The kids that are out there and they're just like, almost like there's an irrational confidence to them. I'm really good. I don't care. Giannis should have been psyched out at some point during that Sun series, because especially like if you go back and watch a couple of those games, you know, they were kind of cratering, and part of it was because of the free throws, remember? And at some point there was like a Simmons kind of scenario there, but they fought through it. And I think he is one of the most mentally tough guys in the league. Like if we're doing our mentally tough rankings, I don't know who's won, but he's up there. LeBron's obviously up there. But Giannis is absolutely 100% up there. Chris Paul.
Also, he hurt his knee in the second round, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, his body is broken. It's over." And then like 3 games later, he was scoring 50 in the finals, like nothing happened.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Simmons Giannis thing, because I said this to you before we started taping. I do wonder if we've spent more time talking about Simmons than any kind of not that consequential star in NBA history. I'm sure there's been other examples over the years. Like there was a lot of Stephon Marbury talk in the 2000s, for instance. I think honestly, Vince Carter, as cool of a career as he had, if you actually look back at his career, it's like he was in round 2 once, got traded to Orlando. They made the conference finals. Celtics knocked him out, but
missed some big free throws in that series.
Yeah, and was on better teams than I think people realized. He quit on Toronto, and I think we look back at that. I think now his career, everybody thinks of so fondly, and the dunks and how exciting he was, but I look at it as pretty disappointing. I think he could have had a much bigger foothold on that whole Kobe generation than he probably did. He's certainly, from a talent standpoint, seeing both those guys in person in their peak, they're pretty close.
Oh, Vince was
young Vince to early 2000s. Vince was unstoppable, completely unstoppable, just like Kobe was. I don't really feel like one was more dominant than the other, but Kobe just was, mentally different.
I think late career Dallas Vince kind of rewrote the narrative of some of his career, and justifiably so. He has a playoff buzzer beater against the Spurs. Can I give you one of the more talked about that maybe they deserve stars that's going to hit you? It's going to hit you a little bit in the gut, and it's going to hurt me a little bit, but I kind of think I should say it. Can I give it to you?
Yeah.
Antoine Walker.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I was fascinated by Antoine Walker. I talked all the time about Antoine Walker. What did it amount to? I mean, he's a good player. He made a couple All-Star games. How many All-Star games did Antoine Walker make? 3?
He made a
2?
couple. He got Kenyon Martin when Kenyon Martin destroyed him in the back-to-back postseasons, and that was it. And then he couldn't shoot the free throws anymore. But we've had guys over the years that actually probably deserved some of the buzz. How many did he make?
3.
Like Rondo is somebody that we probably talked about more than we needed to. But on the other hand, like he was the best player in a series that had LeBron James at age 25 and went toe-to-toe with LeBron and was better, and his team won. And in 2012, dragged them within the precipice of the finals. And in 2009 he had stuff, and I think with Simmons, I want to see it, because I do think there's a scenario where he's just not playing in the last 8 minutes of big games for them, especially if they're on the road. Because Philly's going to be brutal to him. Boston's going to be brutal to him. I'll be interested to see if Chicago, like what we get from those crowds.